special meeting of the Board of Commissioners. We will have, we're having two public hearings this evening, and let's call the roll.
Mr. Williams, Mrs. Hall,
Here.
Mr. Siegel, Mr. Holmes, Mr. McGarity,
Here.
Mr. Connell,
Here.
Mr. Wexler,
Here.
Mr. Heilman,
Here.
Mr. Oliva.
Here. All right. I guess we're going to go with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yep.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now I will turn it over to the public hearings, over to our Assistant Manager, Laurie Hanlon-Whittup.
Thank you, Commissioner. There are two hearings scheduled this evening. The first is in response, actually, if you wouldn't mind, maybe I could take them out of order and we might be able to get through the one a little more timely than the other.
Okay,
If that's okay with you.
that is fine.
Zoning map amendment for 1315 Northup Road. The petitioner has requested that the zoning classification of a portion of a property located on Northup Road be reclassified from residential to C3 commercial district, and he's here this evening with his counsel.
Okay. The floor is yours.
Good evening. May it please the board, my name is Mark D'Amico. I'm an attorney with an office at 109 Chesley Drive, Media, Pennsylvania, 19063. I'm here tonight representing Westport Holdings Corp., which is the CVS developer of the subject property, 1315 Northrop Road, which is part of an assemblage of contiguous parcels that are proposed for redevelopment. With me this evening are Joel Bellicarpini of Bowler Engineering. He's the civil engineer on the project. Eric Ketzel with Black & Associates. They're the land planner. We also have Mr. Kepner, Joel Kepner here. He's the president of Westport Holdings, excuse me. And then Matt Hammond of Traffic Planning and Design. Matt is the traffic engineer for the project.
Excuse me, one second, just so for the audience, that's the Piazza Honda
Yes, sir.
is now going to be CBS, right?
It's the Piazza Honda
That's the
dealership.
contiguous property, okay.
Yes.
Just for,
This is contiguous
Reference.
to that property.
Right.
The Piazza Honda dealership has relocated or is in the process of relocating to Baltimore Pike in Springfield Township. And Piazza will continue to own the property and lease it to CVS. The entire property is going to be up in front of you on a zoning plan and an aerial map in just a moment. The applicant is seeking to rezone just a portion of the property. So this one property is part of several properties, and it's only a portion of this property that we're proposing to redevelop. That will create a development parcel that's entirely zoned commercial. In Upper Darby, the property along Township Line Road is zoned C2. And then the property in the back in Haverford Township is now partially in C3 and partially R4. In terms of a brief history, we have had multiple meetings with Laurie Hanlon-Whittup and Commissioner Wexler, the 9th Ward Commissioner, the ward in which the property is located. We've also had multiple meetings with the Upper Darby Council President, other members of Upper Darby Township administration, including the mayor. There was a joint public meeting at St. Dorothy's across the street from this site on May 27th, 2014, which was well attended by residents of Haverford Township and Upper Darby Township. The plan was presented and there was an opportunity for questions and comments by the neighbors. We made our application for rezoning in September. On September 30th, we appeared before York Township's Planning Commission. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the ordinance to rezone. It was attended by residents, and there was discussion on how to handle the rear of the site, which will not be developed, but left open and maintained as a landscape area. And I believe it's accurate to report that none of those residents expressed any opposition to the CVS at the Planning Commission meeting again on September 30th. The Planning Commission did make a couple of recommendations, including removing the existing residential building on Northrop, to maintain the area on R4 as open space, and to perform a post-development traffic study to determine if customers are ignoring a proposed no right turn signal onto Treaty Road that Mr. Delacarpini will show you in just a minute. We also reviewed with the Township Planning Commission the fact that this is in two municipalities, Haverford and Upper Darby. And we understand that Haverford is going to defer to Upper Darby in terms of taking the lead on land development. So again, the hearing tonight is just on the consideration to rezone this one piece of property. If the Township Commissioners ultimately adopt that ordinance, the applicant's going to be proceeding through land development with Haverford Township and Upper Darby Township. There's some minor zoning relief that's needed in Upper Darby Township. We're going to be making our application to the zoning hearing board in Upper Darby Township in early November. So we'll be proceeding with zoning and land development with Upper Darby Township. So this is just the first of many steps that will be needed in order to develop the property. I have pre-marked, and I'm going to hand up to either Mr. Byrne or Ms. Widup a copy of the deed for the property, and I've marked that as Exhibit A1. A copy of the letter signed by the owner of the property authorizing the application to rezone that was made on September 5th. That's Exhibit A2. Exhibit A3 is the Delaware County review of this proposal to rezone. I'm pleased to report that Delaware County did recommend that this piece of property be rezoned to commercial. And we've also got a few other exhibits that Mr. Delacarpini will be reviewing with you in a moment.
Okay. Before you go any further, there's a couple things I just want to clear up for us. We do have, this meeting was publicly noticed, is that correct?
Yes.
And that was on October 8th and October 15th, I believe, and we have the proof of advertising here. So we'll mark that as Exhibit T1, okay? And then you said that there was a meeting with the Haverford Planning Commission as well, right? And there were minutes from that meeting, and those minutes will be marked as Exhibit T2. Okay, any objection to that?
No objection.
Good evening, Joel Delacarpini with Bowler Engineering.
Yes, please.
I think
there's one for all of them. Okay.
And state your full name, please.
Joel Raymond Delacarpini. Good evening.
I got him.
As Mark said, Joel Delacarpini representing Bowler Engineering, representing Westport Holdings and CVS on this project. The image that you see projected is an aerial photograph of the site. The red line represents the holdings of the Piazza family that CVS would be leasing from them. The yellow line is the existing township line. Obviously, the lower side is the Upper Darby Township side. The upper half is Haverford Township. The existing Piazza dealership right now, primarily within Upper Darby, a portion of it is in Haverford Township. And the area in Haverford Township does sit up, elevationally sit up above the property. And you'll see that more in our three-dimensional flyover. The image shown here is the zoning plan. This is the proposal for the property. As you can, the dark line representing that same line that you saw in red on the aerial. Proposal would be for a 12,900 square foot CVS pharmacy, 62 parking spaces, a single drive-through noted on the northwestern side of the building, parking and landscaping to support the use. The western side of the property would have a 3,000 square foot retail building, neighborhood-type retail use, yet to be determined. Access to the site would be from a right-in only on Vermont, a full access on Township Line Road, and access on Treaty Road would be restricted from right out. So if exiting on Treaty Road, you can, allowed to make a left, you can enter from either direction. It would be prohibited from making a right turn out. That was some of the feedback we received from discussion with the neighbors. And as part of our conversation with the planning commission, we agreed to a post-construction traffic study to monitor and ensure that is being adhered to and enforced. Beyond, the proposal, again, the size of the CVS, this property, the project would provide landscaping and lighting to support the use and significant buffering around the perimeter that you'll see better illustrated in a three-dimensional flyover that I'll present shortly. And obviously what we're here to discuss is the proposed rezoning of a portion of the property. As you can see, that, go back to the zoning plan. Currently, this rectangle here in Haverford Township is zoned residential, while this portion is zoned commercial. That line comes across approximately here. All we're seeking to do is extend that line straight across the property. The northern portion along Northrop would remain residential, R4, as Mr. D'Amico mentioned earlier, would remain as open space. The existing residence that's on that property would be demolished, consistent with the feedback that we've received. So the image you see here is the zoning overlaid on the aerial. Again, the yellow line being the township line. The existing C3 commercial extends along Township Line Road and along the Haverford Township line. We would simply be seeking to extend that into this property. Everything else would remain R4. And then finally, I'll present the flyover, which is a three-dimensional model to give you just a better feel of what this is going to look like when it's built, and also for the buffering and screening that's being provided for the project. So as we begin, we're at the intersection of Township Line and Vermont. Again, looking at the CVS building when it's built. Again, you'll see there's a retaining wall along the rear to offset the topographical challenges that are out there. That's which provides us a great opportunity, as you see, as we fly through this, that enables us to put the screening, the fence, and the landscaping up at the highest point on top of the wall to provide the most effective screening to the surrounding area.
Sir, could you tell me, is that a residence that you just passed by?
Yes, it is.
And how close is it to this particular landscaping berm, please?
It doesn't change the first lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's consistent with what it is today.
Okay.
What that property, I would say it's roughly, probably 20 or 30 feet, and that's what it is today. There's, along the property line today, there is a retaining wall with buffering and evergreen trees on top of it. That would, as we develop it, that condition would remain the retaining wall would stay, and then from there, the buffering would be extended and increased all the way around.
Are you replacing the retaining wall or just keeping the one that's currently there?
We're likely replacing that wall.
Okay. Thank you.
We're still in the process of completing the design, so that will be confirmed with our land development application. And again, this point right here, if I pause, this is the other lands of Piazza. They will be leased by CVS and maintained as open space as we're swinging around to the Northrop Ave side of the site. And then as we come around to Vermont, you'll see the existing homes that exist along Vermont and the buffering that's being provided to them.
So that's the end of our presentation by Mr. Della Carpini, and we have one more witness, and I didn't know whether you wanted to allow the board an opportunity to ask questions or wait until the end.
The board, I mean, I guess we could ask questions.
You could ask him now if you would like, or we'd rather do everybody at one time.
That's good.
Probably be more, you want to go through the witnesses first? So we-
Makes sense, that would get a whole project.
Oh, you're
Mr.
right.
Hetzel will only be a couple minutes here.
Okay.
He's the land
All right.
planner. So Eric, you want to,
Yeah, we might as well just wait to the end.
Right.
My name is,
Did you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your full name, please, and spell it.
My name is Eric Hetzel, Erikhetzel. I'm a land planner with the firm of Clacken Thomas Panzak, 41 Leopard Road, Paoli, Pennsylvania, 19301. I'm a certified planner, a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. I was asked to evaluate the land planning impacts and the suitability of the site for the proposed use, which I have done. I've summarized a memorandum that has been distributed by Mr. D'Amico.
yes, that's Exhibit A7 that I handed out.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And I will just summarize my conclusions that are contained in that memorandum now. I concluded there in that memo that the proposed change represents sound land planning policy as it represents a logical extension of the current C3 commercial district, which is really a minimal change to the township zoning policy as exists today. That minimal change is all that's required to allow for redevelopment of this site with a use that's more compatible with the surrounding uses than its current use as car dealership, which is essentially functionally obsolete. Modern car dealerships require different configuration of property in order to function as they do in modern times. Thank you. And which is why the current use is vacating the site to relocate. Rezoning the site as proposed is necessary to allow it to be redeveloped in an effective manner. We also note that some environmental issues that are on the site will be remediated as part of this. So from the land use planning perspective, the proposed development is sensible. It's replacing a highway-oriented commercial use with a more appropriate neighborhood retail use, which is by right permitted in the C3 district. As it's currently zoned, the portion of the property that can be developed is a wedge-shaped area. Rezoning the property to the C3 would modify the shape of this developable portion to enlarge it slightly, allowing for proper zoning standards to be applied for the retail use that's proposed. As was also noted, the rezoning allows the building to be situated at a location on the property that has it significantly below grade of the adjacent residential neighborhood, which allows for significant buffering and screening Also noted is that retaining wall would function also as a noise barrier to the properties to the north. The increased setbacks that would be afforded by this proposed rezoning also allows Township Line Road to be widened and a left turn lane to be placed on that roadway, promoting more efficient circulation and safer ingress and egress to the site. Also, there will be improved safety at nearby intersections, increased setbacks along the frontage along Township Line Road that would happen with the removal of the existing buildings would provide for better sight triangles, better visibility, and safer turning onto Township Line Road from Warrior Road and Treaty Road intersection. Also, there will be restrictions prohibiting right turns out of the site onto Vermont Road that will limit traffic going to the intersection of Vermont and Township Line Roads from this site. There will also be turning restrictions on Treaty Road that would be limiting traffic leaving the site going into the residential neighborhood to the north. So just to conclude, it's my assessment that the proposed rezoning will be a rational policy decision for the township. From a planning standpoint, it would promote safe and logical redevelopment opportunity at this location. And we would recommend that the board look favorably upon it.
Okay. Hold on, one second. Is that it?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So at this time, I'd like to, before I forget, move for admission of exhibits A1 through A8.
Okay, they're admitted, and I should note as well that we had put T1 in as the notice of advertising, and I should have noted for the record as well that the property was posted appropriately pursuant to the terms of the MPC.
So at this time, if the board has any questions of our witnesses, and again, we have Matt Hammond of Traffic Planning and Design, if there's any traffic questions, and Mr. Kepner, who's the president of the Development Corporation.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, what is the current impervious and what will the new impervious be on the proposed site?
I don't think they've gotten to that point, and
No?
the piece that's in Haverford Township is really just the back lot of the
Is it-
residents on Northrop Road.
Okay, that's
Not
it?
the Upper Darby, not the
Okay.
frontage along Township Line.
I believe he has it here, right?
Yeah, does he have it? Yeah. Well, I'd like to know anyway. I mean, just, it is an improvement, I would say. I think it's probably 100% or pretty close right now.
I have to let me pull the plan up. I can give you the exact number. But the impervious coverage will be fully compliant with the zoning requirements. The lot coverage in the C3 in Haverford Township would be 66.7%, where 75% is permitted.
Okay.
That's well below
Yeah.
that number. Okay, in looking at this plan, my question is, when you go out on a treaty road, you're coming out on treaty road, traffic is traveling in both directions, am I correct?
Correct.
Traffic can travel in both directions. So if you come out of there, is there any way to configure that so you can't go, or it forces you to make the left turn and makes it harder for you to make the right? Because I know if people come out of there and there's two-way traffic coming through there, we run, I'm just saying this because we have this problem at the Wawa here at Manoa. People just, even though there's a sign that says no left turn, because they can. So if there's any way that can be configured to keep you going
Honest.
left and not being able to go right.
Just
Kind of
so
like
we,
what they did at Williams Road.
okay, just, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but just so we know who's going to answer, if we get Mr. Hammond sworn in and,
solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
And state your full name for the record, please.
Matthew Hammond, Hammond. I'm with the firm of Traffic Planning and Design. I am the traffic engineer that has been retained for this project. You bring up a good question. It's something that we've looked at for a few months now, ever since we met with the neighbors of both Upper Darby and Haverford Township to discuss the possibility of a restriction there. The problem is that it's virtually impossible to physically restrict right turns out while still allowing rights in, lefts in, and lefts out. There's really not too much that can be done, because if you are to physically restrict the right out, then you're physically restricting other movements. Now, if you want to restrict a left out or a left in, it's a little bit easier. But with the right out, anytime you try to put a physical restriction in there, you're negatively affecting the other movements. So what we have proposed is obviously signage to prohibit the right turns. Quite honestly, you know, it's not going to stop everyone from doing it. I'm not going to sit here and say that putting up signs is going to make everyone not make a right turn. But hopefully it will deter some, and quite honestly, you know, some of the residents that live in Treaty Road that may frequent the CVS may make that turn. But one of the things that we did agree to do with the township was to monitor that, and then after the development is open and operating, we go out and do a post-development study and look at how many people are actually doing that and see if there's some other tweaks we can make at that point to help that situation. But short of some sort of physical restriction that would eliminate other movements, there's really not much more we can do other than sign.
And even with that, I mean, you pointed out Williams Road, they've made it almost impossible to make a left onto Williams Road from Darby Road, and people still do it. They've made it impossible for people to go straight across from Haverford Reserve onto Williams Road. People still do it. I mean, they go out of their way. I don't even know how they do it, to be honest with you. I don't think I could do it, and I have an expedition. I should be able to do it easily. And people still manage to do it, so I don't even know if...
And the one thing to keep in mind too is that today you have it's technically three uses on the property. You have an auto sales, you have a repair shop, body shop, and you have, and a repair shop, I'm sorry. You have three separate uses on the site. When we conducted the traffic study, we actually looked at how much traffic is being generated today by the uses, because that access point on Treaty Road exists today.
Right.
It's not a new access point.
Yeah, that's where the
and
body shop
comparing-
exit.
Yeah, and comparing that to a CVS, CVS is actually going to generate less traffic in the morning, a little bit more in the afternoon, but for all intents and purposes, it's fairly comparable. In other words, CVS in the afternoon peak hour probably generate about 23 more trips, which is essentially maybe 10, 12 more cars in an hour, which broken out over the access points probably won't even notice. But it's not like we're putting a more intense use in here that'll significantly increase the traffic flow. It's fairly comparable to the three uses that currently exist on the site.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? No, there is no other questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Would you like to?
any other,
No,
you-
no
you're-
other questions from the commissioners?
were you finished your presentation, Mr. D'Amico?
Yes.
Okay, and there, any of the commissioners had any other questions?
No, but
Okay.
public comment? I
Yes,
guess we-
please, that's what we should do next.
All right,
Mhm.
go ahead. You can.
Okay. Okay, at this time, we're going to open it up on this item only for public comment. Anybody that has any input with respect to this proposed zoning map amendment? Anybody on the left? No one? No one on the left? And anyone on the right? No one on the right?
All right.
Okay, and I guess we could close the hearing with the admission of all the exhibits. We'll close the hearing.
Thank you,
Motion to
gentlemen, for
hearing
coming.
be closed.
Okay?
All right.
You want a motion, Jim, for the hearing to be closed?
Okay. The ordinance will be voted on, we'll review all the documents. The ordinance will be voted on at the regular November meeting, which will be on November 10th.
Thank you
Okay.
very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we move on to,
The next
Canyon
matter.
Road.
Right.
Because
mhm.
they're
like to,
Yeah, sure.
yeah, go
Okay.
ahead. You weren't here before, so I'd already doing it.
Thank you. The next matter on the agenda is Panmore Road, and I know that there's some lawyers representing Panmore Road applicant as well. If you'd like to come up. Okay, before we get started, this is a petition to vacate Panmore Road, and this was advertised as well in the Delaware County Daily Times on October 13th, 2014, and October 20th, 2014, for a hearing tonight. And with that, I would hand it over to Ms. Edwards. You don't have any objection to me marking that as T1? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Caroline Edwards. I am the attorney for Dr. John Williams, who is one of the petitioners. We're going to be presenting testimony and evidence this evening in support of the petition that was filed to vacate a portion of Panmure Road, or in the alternative, to find that that road is currently a private road. I don't want to spend a lot of time with the preliminaries. I know everybody wants to just get to the hearing. So I'm just going to tell you that I'm going to have 5 witnesses. Dr. Williams is going to be the primary testimony, and then 4 other witnesses just to speak as to the conditions on Panmure Road.
Okay. Would you like to call your first witness?
Yes, Dr. John Williams.
This is going to be a little bit difficult for you because we have this is on TV and there's one microphone there, so as best you can share it for them to be able to pick it up, you know.
Dr. Williams, you're going to need to...
Oh yeah, we have to swear the witness in. Yes, please.
You do solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth,
I do.
and state your full name, please.
Dr. John Williams.
Dr. Williams, what is your profession?
I'm a physician, and I'm a Commonwealth employee, member of the Board of Pardons.
And where do you live?
I live at 730 Panmure Road.
Are you and your wife the owners of that property?
Yes.
And do you and your wife have any children?
Yes, we have 3. 2 of them who are here tonight.
How long have you lived at the property?
Since 2012.
I'm going to show you a deed. And I have pre-marked that as A1. Can you identify that, please?
Yes. This is the deed when we purchased the property.
May I hand these out, or do you want to pass
Yes,
them?
you can either way. I can pass them down if you want to.
Yeah, give it, yeah, that's it.
Now, is your home located on the portion of Panmure Road that is the subject of tonight's hearing?
It is.
And I'm going to show you a copy of a plan that shows Panmure Road. And I would ask you, first of all, to mark on this copy, which I'll give to the court reporter, the limits of the application.
Yes. The application just includes the portion from the northwest corner of our parcel to Buck Lane. It does not include the portion of the 700 block in front of the Mainline Arts Center. It does not include the 500 block of Panmure. It only includes a portion of the 700 block of Panmure.
I'm going to wait 1 second until everybody has a copy of the plan, because I'm just going to make reference to that while just to make sure everybody understands the limitations of this application.
And while we're waiting for that, you said that was A2, right?
That's A2, yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It's marked A2.
We'll have a survey generated following this hearing to give the exact dimensions.
Now, just to restate your testimony, if you're looking at the plan, you see Old Buck Road coming in about the center of the top, and it turns into County Line Road. you see a curved portion of a road that's marked as Panmure Road. Would that be accurate?
That is correct.
And the portion of the road that you're talking about goes from a little bit in from the connection with Old Buck Road.
That's right. It's more than a little bit. It's approximately actually 80 feet.
So there's a property shown on this plan marked as Mainline Arts Center.
That's
That's
correct.
the property we're talking about, and that's in darker gray.
That is correct.
So so that portion that's darker gray at the intersection of Panmure and Old Buck Road, that is not included in the application.
Correct. That is not included in the application.
And the other end of the road that's included in the application terminates at Buck Lane.
It terminates at Buck Lane. It does not continue beyond Buck Lane.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll call that section that we're talking about tonight the vacation portion, just for clarity, rather than Panmure Road, because we're not talking about all of Panmure Road. Could you briefly describe the vacation portion of Panmure Road?
It starts at the very tip of our property, and then extends to Buck Lane, as we mentioned. It is a narrow road. The cartway of the road is approximately 18 feet wide. The cartway is clearly demarcated by a set of ancient cobblestones that go along the entire length of actually the vacation portion. They stop right at the northeastern edge of 730 Panmure Road, which is my property.
Well, the road itself curves, correct?
Yes. There is what I would describe as a very dangerous curve. There is extremely poor visibility. In fact, there's no visibility at the curve. So much so that essentially, if I am going westbound on the 700 block, it is extremely dangerous for me to turn into my driveway, into my own property, because of the complete lack of visibility at that curve.
And when you say traveling westward, what crossroad are you traveling towards?
Well, if I was traveling on the 700 block towards Old Buck Lane.
Thank you. Since living there, have you noticed any issues on Panmure Road?
Yes, I have. I suppose one of the first things that I noticed is when, in the middle of the night, I heard a crashing sound and came out the next morning with my wife to see that our mailbox had been sheared off by a motorist who had left part of his fender on our front yard. We've had numerous plants destroyed by people running off of the road. I myself, I'm a runner, and so I frequently run down there. I've had to jump out of the way at the curve by people speeding, and then I've been cursed at on occasion by motorists who were not interested in slowing down. And then, most significantly, this summer, my car, SUV, it was a Volvo XC90, was destroyed by somebody running on Panmure, by somebody running through a stop sign on Buck Lane. And the car was totaled, and it was a total loss, and was, destroyed.
Now, just to clarify the character of the road, are all, other than the Mainline Arts Center, which isn't really part of this application?
Yes, that's correct.
Is the rest of the roadway residential?
It is. There are 7 residences on the property there are 3 on the southern side, of which my property is one, and there are 4 on the northern side. Of those 7 properties, only 6 actually have access to the 700 block. The 4th property, which is actually right at the curve, directly opposite my house, does not have driveway access to Panmure. The 4 properties that are north of Panmure, which are essentially between there and Old Buck Road, they all have driveway access onto Old Buck Road.
Thank you. What other than the residents of Panmure, who uses Panmure Road, in your observation?
There is a very significant amount of commercial traffic, which has essentially at times taken over the road. Especially when there was construction of the Lexus garage, they would use Panmure Road to essentially go down there, then go down Buck and then Railroad to a lot which they had created to store cars. But even beyond that, it's sort of a test drive route for the Lexus dealership that is on Lancaster. And the other thing which is challenging as well is from some of the students going to the Haverford School use that as well as a route to kind of cut through to get to the parking lot on College Avenue. The other thing to keep in mind is that there previously was an extension of Old Buck Road between Buck Lane and Railroad Avenue. But that was closed at some point in the past, which then diverted the traffic to Panmure.
Before you and your neighbors filed this application with the township, did you investigate any other approaches for addressing the safety issues?
We did. We've been working at this for exactly 2 years, almost exactly. It started in October of 2012. Our initial attempt here was to attempt to create a one-way couplet that we thought would help with the speed situation, but we were not successful in doing that.
Have you personally done research on the public status of the vacation portion of Panmure Road?
I have.
And based on your research, what have you concluded?
So, I'll try to make this as brief as possible.
Just tell me what you concluded, then we'll go through
okay.
Step by step.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I have concluded with certainty that the due process that was required to legally open Panmure Road, the 700 block of Panmure Road, as a public street was not completed.
Okay. Now, we're going to go back a long way, so nobody here was involved, I'm pretty sure. So, let's start off. I'm going to show you a report that was filed with the Court of Quarter Sessions in 1916. And I've marked that.
Yeah, Jim was in next. That was your first year, right, Jim?
Yeah, Jimmy was commissioner, yeah.
I've marked that as A3. Let me hand a copy to your solicitor and then.
Actually, it might have been his third term.
Thank you.
His third term.
Now, I'm just going to ask you to identify this on the first page. Does it state, in the matter of the acceptance and adoption of Panmure Avenue as a public highway in the township of Haverford?
It does.
And does it state also in handwriting, filed June 29, 1916?
Correct.
And then a signature, which I cannot read.
Correct.
It might be McGarity.
Is this a report made by the Haverford Township Commissioners to the Delaware County Court in 1916?
Yes, it was.
And does this report state that in 1916, the township granted a petition to accept and adopt Panmure Road as a public highway?
Yes, it does.
How did you obtain this document?
So as we began to look at the history of the road, went to the Delaware County Archives and essentially did a request for all documentation in the archives that were present in the archives regarding Panmure Road. This was the only document that was present in the archives. There were no other documents regarding appointment of viewers, payment of damages, nothing like that.
Okay, so first of all, is it your belief that the fact that the commissioners in 1916 were taking steps to accept Panmure Road as a public road means that at that time Panmure Road was a private road?
Yes, it stated in the actual report that the language says, describes Panmure, the 700 block, as a certain private road.
And is that on the first full page of that document?
That is on the first full page, a certain private road known as Panmure Avenue. It was called Avenue at the time.
Sure. Now, I direct your